This is Star Radio UK.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Hey! Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, it's your girl, Bebe Clement, and it's so nice of you to join me again on the Bebe Means Business Show. As always, I'm your host, Bebe Clement, and for those who are joining us for the very first time, you are very welcome to the Bebe Means Business Show. On this show, we talk about anything and everything to do with business and entrepreneurship. And the whole aim is to educate you, give you information, tips, advice, have really dope guests on the show that can help you in your journey to becoming financially free and creating and building and protecting generational wealth. So once again, thank you for taking the time out to spend on the Bebe Means Business Show. It will be worth your while, I can assure you. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in over the last 2 weeks. I have been on holiday, and so we've had a couple of repeat shows. Last week we had a show that taught you how to build great teams, and this is really important. If you are serious about your business, at some point you're going to have to build a team. You can't do all the work yourself, so you're going to have to build a team. So today I have something slightly different, and that's because as you know, right now things are tough. The cost of living has gone through the roof. Literally has just gone through the roof. I was checking just before the show September CPI, and the CPI for September is 9.9%. 9.9%, which is the highest it has been, I understand, in 40 years. Also, energy prices, as you well know, are going up. Property prices, we don't know what's going on with that. Governments are looking to put a cap on energy prices. They're trying to stem the flow, stem the tide of everything that's happening. And banks are running scared. We're being told that actually a time might come where you might be able to take your money out of the bank if they've given out too much money. So everything is up in the air at the moment, and so understandably so, and I think this is a good thing. A lot more people now are understanding or coming alive to the fact that they can no longer survive on a single source of income, and for most people that single source of income is a salary. Listen, I really don't know what else to say. I mean, I've been banging this drum for many years, but if with everything that's going on now, you still do not see the essence of developing your own income streams, and I don't know what else you need to see. I don't know what else needs to happen for you to prepare yourself. And as always, like I say, I'm not trying to scare you, but I am trying to prepare you. There are things coming, ladies and gentlemen, that you are not going to be able to survive. I'm not mincing my words. You are not going to be able to survive if you have a single source of income. So a lot more people are doing what they need to do to develop different sources of income. And there's a lot you can do. You can invest in the stock market. You can buy property. You can do all kinds of other things. But for the majority of people will turn to a small business. Even if they start that small business as a hobby or as a side hustle, they will mostly go into a small business. Now, I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs. As you know, I do a lot of stuff. I'm founder and president of Black Businesses UK, which is one of the largest networking groups for Black professionals and Black entrepreneurs in the UK. I do business mentoring and coaching. I run a weekly mastermind group for entrepreneurs. So I do all kinds of things with entrepreneurs, and I get to speak to entrepreneurs a lot. I engage with them a lot, and I get to discuss the struggles and the problems that they're having. So I also do, as you know, seminars and training and all that. and provide resources to them to make sure that they are doing well. But for as many people as are going to go into business, sadly, a large majority of those people are going to fail. And that's not a curse for those of you who are religious. And that's not a curse. That is just the sheer fact. Many of them are going to fail. In fact, when it comes to our community, the black community in the UK, we do have, sadly, one of the lowest success rates as regards longevity of businesses. The average black-owned business in the UK from conception to expiration is about 5 years. That means from the moment somebody says, you know what, I want to start a business, to actually putting it into place, running it, and then eventually dying is on average 5 years. So I've done a lot of research into this. Why are we failing so badly? What's happening? And I've come to the conclusion that it's not even to do with lack of resources, because a lot of people, whenever you think about, oh, my business failed, they always go to the, perhaps you didn't have enough money. And sometimes, yes, it is a cash flow problem. But I've discovered that actually that is not the main reason why people fail. That's not the main reason why people fail in business. A lot of the times, it's because of the mindset. Because they carry an employee mindset into the marketplace. And as in everything in life, mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. So I thought today I'd do a show on developing the mindset of an entrepreneur. Developing the mindset of an entrepreneur. So I just want to give a few tips as to what you can do to ensure that you can stay in business. For those of you who are thinking about going into business, and perhaps you're already in business, but it's not going the way you thought it was going to go, perhaps I can share some tips and bring some enlightenment as to why that is, and what you can do to ensure that you do stay in business, not just stay in business and struggle, but stay in business and thrive. So here's some of the tips that I'd like to share with you today. So once again, you are welcome to the Bebe Means Business Show. Let's go. So let's talk about money. Yes. Now, if you go into business, one of the things I would encourage you to do is to have a separate account for your business. Have a separate account for your business. Do not mix your business money with your personal bank account. So for some of you, HMRC will even demand that of you, but even if you are not, even if that's not demanded of you, can I encourage you as good practice, make sure you have a separate account for your finances, your business finances, and for your personal, and do not mix the two. If you don't, it would be extremely difficult for you to stay on top of your finances and to track them. How do you know how much is coming in? How do you know what you're spending on what? It's very, very difficult. Also, as you know, you have to file your tax every year, and it's very difficult to do if you've mixed up your personal and your business finances. But if you have one single account, you just go to that account, everything is recorded there, so you know exactly how much money is going in and how much money is going out. Now, of course, you can keep an eye on whether you're actually making a profit, because some of us just live in denial. We look at our accounts and we think there's money in there, and we live in denial, and then we discover that actually most of the money in there was our personal money. It wasn't to do with money that the business was making. So it's very, very important that you have a separate account for your business and a separate account for your personal finances. Now, the second one is one that I talk about quite a bit, but it's worth mentioning again, is make sure that you implement proper processes and procedures in your business that free up your time. So understand that when you are an employee, you're kind of spoon-fed, and this is, again, is what I'm talking about as regards the mindset. You're kind of spoon-fed. So your laptop or your computer doesn't work, you pick up the phone and you call IT. Your wage slip hasn't arrived, you trotter on down to payroll. So you're kind of spoon-fed. But when you go into business for yourself, you are IT, you are payroll, you are the receptionist. At least initially, you are practically everything. So it's very, very important that you keep your mind on the time. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about time in a minute, prioritizing your time. But even prior to that, it's important that you do not drown in the mundane stuff. And there's a huge tendency for that to happen when you go into business for yourself. So what you need to be thinking of is you are the captain of your ship. So think of your business like a ship. You are the captain of that ship, and your job is to strategize, is to steer that ship, to keep your eye on where that ship is going and how it's going to get there, and leave all the other mundane stuff to the ship hands. The cooking, leave that to the ship hands. The dealing with the passengers, leave that to the ship hands. So as much as possible, you must have practices and procedures in place that free up your time, and you need to start doing that as early as possible. I often say that people get so involved in working in the company that they don't have time to work on the company. And what I mean by that is that you are the strategic leader of your company, and you need time to be able to think. Strategizing needs time to happen, and if you are stuck on a daily basis dealing with mundane stuff, you will not have time. And the result of that, we see that often, the result of that is that your business will have stunted growth. And once you have stagnant and stunted growth, if you're not moving forward, you are moving backwards, and it's just a matter of time before your business dies. So you've got to make sure that you free up your time. So another thing is that you must build the business such that it is making money when you are not physically present in the office. I'll say that in another way. If your business is dependent on you being physically sat in front of your computer or in an office for it to make money, then I would respectfully suggest that what you have created is not a business, it is another job. You've created another job. The very thing that you were probably trying to get away from in the first place when you started the business is what you have created again. So when you create when you implement proper practices and procedures and processes, that frees up your time, that enables you to make money while you are not in the office. So one of the things that you should do is look to automate your processes as quickly as possible and as much as possible. So let's say you are selling a product and you have a website. Don't let it just be a website that people can come and visit. Let it be an e-commerce website so that people can pay for your products online. So they don't have to call you personally. You don't have to personally pick up the phone for people to inquire about your products. So for instance, if you go to my website, which is bbclement.com, that's B-E-B-E, Clement, C-L-E-M-E-N-T.com, and if you go to my shop, you will find all the products that I sell listed there and shown there, and then you can just click on them. You go to the shop. It's just like Amazon, basically, and then you go to checkout, and you are able to pay. The ability to pay exists on the website. So 90% of my clients, I never even see them. And this works even if you're having a service. So I sell products and services, but mostly I sell services, my seminars or webinars, or people hire me to come and speak somewhere, something like that. And all of that is available online. So they have a form that they can fill out. There's something on my website that says, do you want to hire BB for your next event? And you can fill out the contact form, and then just send in that information, and my PA will deal with it. So I don't even necessarily have to be involved in the process at all. I just get told by my PA, BB, client wants you to go and do a training on the psychology of selling on Tuesday. Here's the contact details. Go ahead. So that's basically how it works. So my time is then freed up for other things. So try and do that as much as possible. Because what happens is a lot of people go into business and they're so swamped and they're so scared to even leave the business, because if they leave the business, they won't be making any money. And so they're afraid to go on holiday. They're afraid to spend time with their family. They're in the office from morning till night. And, in the end, if they're not careful, they have a breakdown, or you even run back to your employment. So it doesn't have to be that way. And one of the ways to prevent that happening is to ensure that you're thinking like an entrepreneur, and you're looking at how you can put practices and processes in place that will enable you to free up your time and to get away from the office when you need to. Because at the end of the day, part of the reason for going into business is so that you can reclaim your time, you can redeem your time. And if you're stuck in the office all the time, that's not a possibility. All right, we're going to take a short break here, and when I come back, I'm going to be dealing more and giving you more tips on how to develop the mindset of an entrepreneur so that you can be successful in business. Don't go away.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you once again for joining the Bebe Means Business show. For those of you who might just be joining us, today I'm talking about developing the mindset of an entrepreneur. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because many people make the physical transition from employment to the marketplace, but they don't make the mental transition. And as a result, they're not prepared. They're not marketplace ready for starting a business. And so when that happens, it's almost inevitable that people do not do well. It is very, very important that you make the mental transition from being an employee to an entrepreneur if you want to be successful in business. So just before the break, I was talking about some of the ways in which you can do that, and I was talking about making sure that you have the proper processes and procedures in place to ensure that you don't get tied to your desk. You don't get tied to your desk, and ensuring that you automate your systems. Now, if you cannot hire full-time staff, and many people can't initially, but again, you must start thinking about that. You must start thinking beyond being a one-man band. Too many of our businesses are a one-man band, and it is almost impossible to survive like that. You must collaborate, you must go into partnerships, you must do all that. But one of the things that you must be thinking about is how to set up a team or get a group of employees. Again, this is part of your practices and your processes, because you can't do it all on your own. So if you can't afford, let's say, an administrator, if you can't afford a full-time administrator, then hire a virtual PA. You can hire them by the hour. So you can pay them by the hour, or use a serviced office who can take your messages for you. Anything to free up your time. Anything. So if you have a virtual PA or you have a service office, you don't have to personally be on the end of the phone in order to engage with clients, because again, that takes up too much of your time. Also, encourage clients to communicate with you via email as opposed to calling you. Because once you've got them on the line, then if they want to chat, they're going to keep chatting. There's not much you can do. But if you ask them to contact you by email, that way you get to filter out what is really important, what you need to get back to immediately, or what could just, it can just wait, or somebody else can do for you. So that's one of the things that you can do. If you are looking for staff that you can pay as and when, two good sites to have a look at. One, people per hour, and Fiverr. Fiverr does things more like graphic design. You want to prepare something for marketing. They're probably better for things like that. But people per hour, good for PAs and stuff like that. You can find them on there, and they're not that expensive, to be honest. I think people think they're more expensive than they are. But again, one of the things, of course, that you do when you're an entrepreneur is you keep your eye on your cash flow. So you might not need to have a full-time employee. I don't know how much business you're doing, but you might not need to have a full-time employee. So you look to how you can keep your overhead low so that you can maximize your profit. Keep your overhead low so you can maximize your profit. So rather than go and hire someone full-time, look for how you can hire them for maybe 1 or 2 hours a day. So maybe in the morning you just need someone who can check all the emails and let you know what is really important, or just respond to any of the letters that have come in. You don't need them for more than a couple of hours. Anything more than that, then they're just sitting at your desk twiddling their thumbs, and you can't afford to have people on your books who are doing that. Okay, so that brings me to the important issue of time management. Now, I think that probably one of the things that really makes us do poorly in business is because we have poor time management skills, and we carry that into our business. Now, so for those of you who, as employees, you're always late to work, you never work to deadlines, that kind of thing, you are going to have huge problems when you begin to work for yourself, because these are the things that are vital as an entrepreneur. Very, very important. Now, a lot of your success hinges on this. So I would encourage you to do a practice that I do. So whenever I go to my desk, whenever I sit at my desk in the morning, the first thing I do is I make 3 columns, and I put those 3 columns. One of the headings is imperative, the second heading is very important, and the third heading is can wait. So that's imperative, very important, and can wait. And then I begin to list all the things that I need to do that day under those 3 headings. And then I start from imperative and work my way across. Now, the great thing about that is it's hardly ever a day that you get through everything that you need to do for that, or you've specified that you want to do for that day. Hardly ever occurs that way, because life gets in the way. A phone call that you thought was going to take 5 minutes will end up taking an hour. So, but the great thing about it is that even if you don't do everything you're supposed to, at least you will get through all of your imperatives, or at least the majority of your imperatives. But what most people do when they don't organize themselves in that manner is they what do they call that phrase? They're putting out fires all day long. So the first thing that comes to them, they're dealing with that. And the first thing that comes to you might not even be that important. So maybe somebody gives you a call and they want to talk about something that you did for them a year ago, and blah blah blah, or give an update of where they are in their business. That might not be the most important thing or the best use of your time today. Perhaps you have a deadline that you need to deal with. So I'd encourage you to do that. You don't have to use the headings that I've used, but I would encourage you to make a list of what you need to do every day by level of importance, and begin to work your way through that. Okay, now this is important because in business there are a lot of things that have deadlines. So for instance, filing your tax has a deadline. And you will pay a great penalty if you don't file it on time. So, when that kind of thing is due, you don't have time to be messing around with unimportant stuff. Also, your reputation is built upon things like that, your ability to do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. So, for instance, my background, as you know, is employment law, and employment law, as most things in law, have very strict deadlines. So, for instance, if you're going to file a claim at tribunal for unfair dismissal, you have literally 30 days from the date of dismissal. So if you're filing on the 32nd day, if you've forgotten about it, and you're filing on the 32nd day, and the tribunal rejects it, you now have to explain to the client how you were so negligent that you forgot to file the claim on time. So that, of course, is going to affect your reputation very, very badly. So these kind of things are quite important. They're quite important. So you need to be able to manage your time appropriately. In addition to that, if possible, and where possible, switch off your mobile phone or put it on silent, or get into the habit of only checking it at specific times. So maybe you decide that, okay, for the first 2 hours of the day, I'm going to be working non-stop. But then I'll take a break around 11:30, and I'll just check my phone, see if any messages have come in, or if you just need a break, you want to look at something mindless on Instagram or something like that. But even that, you time it. Because if you're not, these things are addictive, and if you're not careful, that thing that you said you were going to quickly check on Instagram, 40 minutes later, you're still sitting there. And what you should have really done with your time is waiting for your attention. So you don't want that to happen habitually. So make sure you discipline yourself. And it is discipline. That's what we're looking at here. Self-discipline. or perhaps somebody calls you and you know that the person calling you all they want to do is gossip or gist. You have to get into the habit of saying, I'm really sorry, can I call you back? I'm just right in the middle of something. And don't feel guilty about that. Don't feel guilty about that. In fact, when you do that, people will understand and begin to get the message that actually I'm running a business. This is not a game I'm playing here. This is not a hobby. I'm running a business. My livelihood depends on this. And they will be more respectful of your time, because some people, in all honesty, have no respect for your time. And you have to let them know that actually I'm not messing around here. I am running a business. Okay. Then the next tip is to build a power team. Build a power team with reputable, reliable, and affordable professional services. And whether we like it or not, you need professional services. Now, again, in my community, we tend not to value professional services. And then when we get into trouble, as we sometimes do, we want them to work miracles. That doesn't work, because hardly any of them can. So it's important for you to know from the get-go that you are going to need professional services. I would encourage you to hire people who have a good reputation. So ask around from other entrepreneurs, who's a good lawyer or who's a good accountant or that kind of thing. Ask around and make sure that you interview them before you hire them, and you're happy that they understand the vision of your company or of your business, because that's very, very important. Not everybody does. So it's important that you're happy that they get you. Basically, they understand where you're going and they understand their role in helping you get there. Now, for instance, I'll just mention some of the people that you are going to have in your team. In a little while, I'm going to be doing a series on building a power team, and I'm going to have guests on the show who represent certain members of that power team, just so that you know the kind of people that you need. But I'll just mention them here in passing. One, the first person you need, if you're going to go in business, you're going to need a solicitor. You can't get around that. You're going to need a solicitor, because there are certain things that you are going to have to be involved in, agreements that you're going to sign, terms and conditions that you're going to have to agree to, and 9 times out of 10 you don't know what you're signing and you don't understand the small print. So don't try and be smart and think that you can circumvent this. Pay for a good solicitor. Now, when I say pay for a solicitor, again, if you're a business, then you don't go and hire an immigration solicitor. You hire somebody who understands business. And I'm going to use this opportunity to promote our company, AugustineClement.com. So that's www.augustineclement.com. Solicitors. Our law firm is designated to small business owners. So that's what we do. Commercial law. So whether you use us or not, please don't go and hire someone who does employment law alone or does immigration or has no idea about business, because you will run into trouble. So again, I would ask around if I was you, because reputation is quite important. And like I said, have an interview with them and ensure that they understand your vision. Then the next person that you're going to have in your power team is your accountant, or at the very least a bookkeeper. You must have someone who's keeping an eye on the money, and oftentimes you can't. And sometimes, even when you are keeping an eye on the money, you are not clear on what the figures are showing you. So, for instance, some people will look at their accounts and it looks like it's buoyant because they see a positive figure in there. And what they don't understand is that figure is their turnover, not their profit. There's a difference between turnover and profit. Now, your accountant will be able to tell you, actually, that's not your profit, honey. You are not doing as well as you think you're doing. Also, if you're going to hire an accountant, I would encourage you to hire one who also does tax advice, because you will need a tax advisor. This is very, very important. I was listening to an interview by Shaq O'Neal recently. You remember the former NBA player, and he was saying how when he became an NBA player, he didn't understand finance. He just knew that they were paying him millions of dollars, and he looked to him like that was going to last forever. He didn't understand finance. He was totally financially illiterate. And then one day he bought himself a car And his dad said, "Where's mine?" So he went and bought one for his dad, and then a couple of other things for family members. And he said in his mind, everything came to just about $600,000. So he was like, okay, $600,000, I can afford that. And then the next day, his tax advisor called him and said, "Shaq, what are you doing?" And he said, what do you mean? He said, you spent over $1 million in a day. He said, "No, I didn't. I didn't spend over $1 million. I spent about 600,000. And then his tax consultant said, that's how much you purchased the products for, but you have to pay this tax, that tax, the other tax. And by the time everything had been added, he had spent over $1 million and didn't realize it. So this happens quite a bit. Because we don't understand the system, you need people who do and who can interpret it for you, especially your tax consultant and especially your accountant, so that you don't get yourself into trouble and you are fully understanding the data that you are receiving from your bank account, from the figures that you are seeing. You're interpreting them correctly so that you know exactly what position your business is in. Really, really important. Okay, now once you begin to get staff, you will need somebody to manage your staff. Don't try and do it yourself. Now that doesn't mean you have to necessarily hire an HR manager. You can outsource. In fact, I would encourage you in this climate to outsource as much as possible. This is the beauty of doing business in this day and age. Outsource as much of your work as possible. You can outsource your HR. So do that, so that they can make sure that they're keeping an eye on your employees, because I'm telling you, you do not want employee stress. I can assure you, you don't want that. It's important that your employees are happy, that you have proper policies and procedures in place. Again, don't try and circumvent that. It's important. It is the law that you have proper policies and procedures, have staff handbooks, so that if anything goes wrong, staff know exactly where to go, what to do. Perhaps they have a grievance against some manager or even against you. What do they need to do in order to correct that? You must have clear and proper practices and procedures in place. Do not run your business like, some of us, especially those of us who come from Africa, where these things are probably not always in place. We come to somewhere like Europe and we think we can get away with the same, and then we get ourselves in trouble. You cannot get away with it. So I would strongly encourage you to get into the habit of having good practices and procedures. Okay. All right. I'll do one more, and then I'm going to take another short break. Set short-term and long-term goals for your business. And these goals should be constantly reviewed to make sure that you are on track. Now, some people go into business, they have no goals for their business. I'm amazed at the number of people I speak to, and I say, okay, so what are you hoping to achieve over the next 6 months, or where are you hoping your business is going to be in the next 1 year? And you can see by the look on their face, the forward look on their face, that they've never even given it a thought. Never given it a thought. Now, I can't understand this. I really can't understand this. When you go for a job interview, one of the things that they ask you is, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? That's because they expect you to have thought about your career progression and to be able to tell them about what conclusion you've come to. The same thing occurs in your business. You should have thought about. You should be able to say, this is how much I expect to make in the first year. And then in the second year, I'm hoping to increase that by 50%. And then if I ask you, so how are you planning to do that? You should be able to tell me. You might not have the nitty-gritty of it, but you should have an overall view of how you're likely to make that happen. And, coming back with phrases like, God is in control, is rubbish. It's rubbish. You must have a plan. You must have a plan. Okay, this first year, our annual turnover was 10,000. Profit was 7. We're hoping to double our profit next year, and we're going to do this by acquiring 5 new clients. I've already got my eye on at least 3 of those clients. I'm going to approach them. I've looked at their budget for this particular service. I think that they can afford my services. This is how I'm going to pitch myself to them, and this is how I'm going to make it happen. I might have to take on 1 extra member of staff that has expertise in a particular area that I don't have, but taking them on, they will be worth their money in gold, because I know that they can bring in some more business. That's the kind of way in which you must begin to speak. You must begin to talk like an entrepreneur, but you can only talk like an entrepreneur if you are thinking like an entrepreneur. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, this is a live show, and you have the opportunity to hit us up if you have any questions, or if you have any statements or anything that you want to talk about in relation to the things that I'm talking about today. Then please contact us. Those of you who are watching from Facebook, you know that you can put your questions in the chat, and we are more than happy to take those questions, or you can hook us up on Twitter, or you can phone us in, and then I can take any questions that you have, and I will respond to them after the break. See you in a moment.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bebe Means Business Show. As you know, I'm your host, Bebe Clement, and today I'm talking about developing the mindset of an entrepreneur, because it's really important that if you're going to go into business, you are mindset ready to do just that. Because if you're not, it is very, very difficult. It would be very, very difficult for you to be successful in business. So my aim today is to get you ready. And for those of you who are already in business and are struggling, hopefully some of the tips that I'm sharing today will help you to improve and make the experience a lot more enjoyable. Okay, so just before the break, oh yes, by the way, if you look on the right hand side of your screen, you will see that you can now advertise on the Bebe Means Business Show. You can sponsor the Bebe Means Business Show. So if you would like to do that, please give us a call or send us an email. The details of how to do that are on that flyer. Yeah, if you want to promote your business, this is a great platform with which to do it. We are global, particularly if you are in the West and you're trying to get into places like Africa. We have a strong following in Africa, so this is a great, reputable platform within which to do that. Okay, back to the show. We are talking, as I said, about developing the mindset of an entrepreneur. And just before the break, I was talking about having a growth strategy. Now, one of the things that I would encourage you to do is write down your business goals. Write them down. Like the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain so that those who read it can run with it. Write down your business goals and your strategy for growth for coming years or for coming months, both short term and long term. I have actually written down my goals, both business and personal, for the next 10 years. So I would encourage you to do the same. You may not hit all of them, that doesn't matter, but at least you are aiming at something. Your aim is more likely to be correct rather than you're firing here, there, and everywhere and not hitting anything in business. So make sure that you write them down, review them periodically. So it might be, okay, every other month I sit down and I review my goals. And again, one of the people that I would encourage you to have in your power team is a business advisor or a business mentor. Now, you might be lucky to have somebody that you don't have to pay, that is just, happy to help you or hold your hand through the whole process, but it might be that you have to pay somebody. Don't shy away from that. These kind of people, they're worth their weight in gold. So make sure you have somebody who understands your terrain and can advise you. Now, if you do have such a person and you've written down your goals, then review your goals with that person every so often. So maybe every 3 months you have lunch with them and you review your goals. Now, one of the great things about doing that is because, when you're running a business, it's like your baby. And it's like when somebody says to you, your son should be reading, your son is 6 now, your son should be reading by now. You get very defensive because this is your baby, it's a part of you. And you say, oh, well, maybe he's he doesn't have to read at the same age or stage as everybody else. You know, he might just be taking a little longer. There's nothing wrong with him. We get very emotional and very defensive. The same thing happens in business. Sometimes we look at our business through the eyes of emotionalism. And the disadvantage of that is we don't give ourselves a clear picture, an honest and true picture of what is really going on in our business. But when you have a business mentor, they are quite dispassionate. They are standing afar from your business, and they can tell you the truth. Don't get a business mentor who's just going to, you know, stroke your ego all the time. They're of no use to you. You need to get someone who can say to you, Bebe, 3 months ago we had a meeting. You told me that you were going to do A, B, C, and D, and you've only done A. Why? That's what you need. You need that kind of person. So review your goals every so often. Also, like I said, you need to think of your business, even if at this stage it's just a side hustle, but treat it as if to say this was your only source of income. If you had no other source of income, if you didn't have a salary, you didn't have anything else coming in, and this was all you had to pay the mortgage and to pay the bills, how would you run it? How would you, what would you aim for by way of income? How much do you need to survive? So that's the first thing you need to do, is look at your own personal life and your expenses. How much do I need to survive? And you've got to start thinking of ways in which your business can cover that, at least meet your expenses. Otherwise, you're just wasting time. Honestly, otherwise it's just a hobby. It's not a business. And we can't afford to have hobbies at this stage. We've got to have real, full businesses. All right. Now, the next one is somewhat related to money, and it is knowing your value and charging accordingly. Now, again, this is huge. This is huge. I have a friend, if he's listening, I give a shout out to Morton Patterson. He's been on the show once or twice before, and he talks about knowing your value in the marketplace. That's his area of expertise. But that area of expertise is vital, I think. It's vital because you'll be amazed the number of people who do not understand the value of what they're bringing to the marketplace. And as a result, they undervalue and therefore undercharge for what they're bringing. So what you need to be aiming for by way of clientele is you need to be aiming for what we call a preferred client. And a preferred client is someone who, one, understands the value of your offering, two, they can pay for it. Don't waste all your time doing your spiels and trying to convince clients who cannot pay for your service, or who don't understand the value. People who understand the value, you don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time convincing them. So look for those kinds of clients. Now, you yourself must understand the value of what you're bringing. So irrespective of what anybody else thinks, you must understand the value of what you are bringing. So once you understand the value, then you can charge accordingly. So for instance, as a trainer, as you know, I do a lot of training in business. I do a lot of in-person talks. What they are paying for, when people say, for instance, okay, Bebe, can you come and do a 3-hour talk for us? And I say, okay, fine. So perhaps maybe I charge them £500. And they might say, oh, but it's only 3 hours. No, actually, that isn't what you're paying for. It's not the 3 hours of delivery that you're paying for. The 3 hours delivery is the least thing that you're paying for. One, what you're paying for is the years that I spent gathering the information and the knowledge that I have and the expertise that I have. Two, another thing that you're paying for is my reputation. You wouldn't have come to me except you know that I can deliver, and I can deliver well, and I'm a good speaker. So, you know, that's what you're paying for. Three, you're paying for my, I always got my marketing material that I have, I'm a great speaker, and I have great presence, and that's the truth. I do have great presence. When I stand on the stage, I command the room. I command the attention of those who are listening to me. That's what you want. That's the kind of, that's what you want when you have someone deliver a training session on your behalf, on the behalf of your company. You want somebody who can command the room, not somebody who opens their mouth and everybody starts snoring. So this is what you are paying for. So it's not the 3 hours that you are paying for. It's not the 3 hours. So I would strongly encourage you to try and move away from an hourly rate. if possible, try and move away from an hourly rate and start charging based on value. Now, let me give you a tip here. You do not have to offer the same service to two different clients at the same price. There's nothing that says that you have to do that. So if I know, for instance, that a client, perhaps a client doesn't have a lot of money, maybe they're a startup, they don't have a lot of money, I want to help them, so maybe their budget is £250 for a particular training session that I'm offering, and I charge, let's say I charge £500 for that particular training. I can make a decision and say, okay, you know what, I just want to contribute, I want to help towards helping you build your business, so I'm going to charge £250, that's not a problem. But if client B comes along and client B has a plush office in Canary Wharf, and I know that the budget for training in that company is £5,000, I have no hesitation in charging them £5,000. No hesitation whatsoever. There is no law that says I have to charge two different clients the same amount for the same service. There's nothing that says that. So don't be afraid to do that. Again, like I said, try and move away from the hourly rate. Also, don't forget to charge for preparation time. This is something we often do. Don't forget to charge for preparation time. It is your job to educate the client as to what it is that you are bringing. So again, they just look at it and they think, okay, you're only delivering for 3 hours. But then I would ask the client, do you have the material and I'm just delivering? Because if that's the case, then yes, I'm willing to accept £500 for the seminar. But if I'm going to be preparing my own material, that's my own time, that's my own intellectual property, I gotta get paid for that. I'm sorry, that's a separate fee. Because what often happens is we don't charge for that, and it's those things, those seemingly little admin things behind the scene that actually take up your time. You can be doing that for hours. It can take me days to put together a seminar. It can take me days. And if that client is not paying for that, that is time that I have used and I'm not gotten paid for. So these are the things that you need to educate your client about if need be. And sometimes the client will say, for instance, like the example I just gave, and I'll say, okay, yes, I'll deliver the seminar, but since you don't have your seminar material and I'm putting it together, I'm going to charge a separate fee of £500 for that. And they might say, oh, Bebe, then, altogether it's going to be outside our budget. And I said, that's fine, not a problem. I have a colleague that I can recommend. She doesn't charge as much as I do. I can recommend her to you. 9 times out of 10, when you say something like that, they think that the colleague that you're going to recommend is not as good as you. If they're not charging as much as you, then they're not as good as you. Again, this is all mindset. A lot to do with selling is psychology. And so they say, no, okay, baby, let's see if we can stretch it, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, again, you should also try and remove yourself emotionally from your fees. If they agree to pay, fine. If they don't agree to pay, fine. What you don't want is to do what I used to do when I first of all started out, is to fold at the slightest amount of pressure. Oh, baby, we can't afford £500. Can you please take 3? And because I was so desperate for the work, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe if I say 300, they will hire me again. It doesn't necessarily work out that way. And you've devalued yourself. It's now almost impossible for the next time they hire you, for you to now say, well, actually, I charge 500 because you agreed to 3. So it's really, really important that you don't devalue yourself in the marketplace. Okay. So now this leads me to building your reputation. Building your reputation. Now, when you're starting out, everyone has to pay their dues, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone. I can't tell you the number of free seminars or free talks that I did. And that's because nobody knew who I was. And so having me come and speak was a bit of a gamble on their part. So I had to pay my dues, and you will too. There'll be some things you'll have to do for free. There are some things you'll have to give extra. There'll be some products you'll have to give away, that kind of thing. But don't let that deter you. You are selling and you're building. Because while you're doing that, you are building your reputation. You're building your reputation. But now that I have a good reputation, and I've established myself in my space as a great communicator, then I can now charge accordingly. Because my reputation is also part of what they're paying for. So when they say they're going to have an event and they put me on their flyer, as part of the guest speakers, and people who know me and have heard me speak will say, "Ooh, Bebe's coming to speak." I can't tell you the number of events I've turned up, and I've met complete strangers who will say, "Oh, Bebe, I came because I heard you were speaking," which is always, such an honor, by the way, to hear people say that. But the point I'm trying to make is that, if you've paid your dues and you've built up your reputation, and your reputation is making the client look good, then you should charge accordingly. Another thing is under promise and over deliver. Under promise and over deliver, not the other way around. Many of us, when we go into business, because we're so desperate again for the work, we tell them we can do A, we can do B, we can do C, and everything like that. And then when it comes time to deliver, you are overwhelmed, totally overwhelmed, and you're not able to do it. Now, when you do that, again, remember that you are building a reputation. When you do that, that affects your reputation. And so you don't want to be doing that. Under promise and over deliver. So an example of that would be, if I've told a client that their work is going to be ready by Friday, I'll deliver it to them by Friday. I will make sure, I'll make a mental note in my head that by Wednesday morning it will be on their desk. All right. So inevitably, I'll get a phone call and say, "Oh, Bebe, that thing arrived this morning. Oh, thank you. I wasn't expecting it until Friday afternoon." And you say, "Yes, I knew that you needed it, so I prioritized it." They love that. Clients love that. So under promise and over deliver. Now, another thing about being in business is that you must develop business acumen. You must develop business acumen. And what do I mean by that? I mean, identify opportunities and manage your risk. That's really what entrepreneurs do. They identify opportunities and they manage risk. Now, opportunities do not come with a sign on them saying, "I am an opportunity." It is your job as an entrepreneur to identify opportunities and to take advantage of them. And most opportunities, ladies and gentlemen, are brilliantly disguised as problems. And your job is to identify the problem and look at how you can solve it. Look at how you can solve that problem for the client. So recently I was speaking. I had a meeting with a client who had hired me to offer training for some of her staff, and we were just having the initial meeting. We were just chatting, and she just in passing made a comment about some of her staff members, and I thought, okay. So while we finished talking, we finalized the deal. She told me which of my trainings that she was gonna take on, training packages she was going to take on. And then I just mentioned to her, and I said, what you said earlier actually struck a chord. I can put something together for you that can address that issue with your staff. And she said, "Really?" I said, "Yes." I said, because if you don't address that staff, they're going to be underachieving, and there's no point in you just giving them training if that issue is not addressed. It's no point. It's like putting paint on rust in a car. It's of no use. So she said, "Oh, okay. Can you put an outline for me? Can you put it together and send it to me?" So I said, "Yeah, sure." So I did. I sent an outline, and she's going to run with it. She was that. So again, this was a problem for her. She hadn't voiced it as a problem. She just made a comment in passing. But I was able to identify that this is something that needs a solution, and bring it to her attention that actually this problem is a lot bigger than you think, or has the potential to be a lot bigger than you think. And the sooner you nip it in the bud, the better. And as a result of that, I was able to get more work. So this is the way that entrepreneurs think. This is the way they think. Whenever you're having a conversation with a client, make sure you're listening. You're listening. Active listening. Active listening is a skill. So make sure that you are doing that. All right. You also have to manage risk. So, for instance, sometimes clients will come to me and say, "Oh, Bebe, I think this is within your area of expertise. Can you come and do a talk on this?" And they mention the topic, and actually, I probably can wing it, but I know that I'm probably not the best person for it. I actually know somebody else who could do a much better job. Now, I could go along. That would be a risk. And deliver it, but I'd much rather maintain my reputation. So I would actually say to the client, listen, I actually think I'm not the best person for this, but I do know someone who is a lot better at this than me. So if you don't mind, I'd like to refer her to you. I'll ask her to give you a call and you can speak with her, but I can guarantee you she's excellent. And the clients will appreciate that. They'll appreciate that. The fact that you didn't, you thought enough of them, you respected them enough not to just see them as a money cow to make money from, but it was more important to you that they have the best. And they'll appreciate that. So I manage that risk in that way. That's just an example. There are lots of ways in which you can manage risk. All right, just before we go, I'm just going to do this last one. Develop a mindset for success. Develop a mindset for success. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If you say to yourself, I can't do this, no amount of opportunities that come your way are going to rescue you from that mindset. If you think in your mind, I'm not a good entrepreneur, nobody in my family has ever been successful in business, or I've tried a business before and I failed, I'm guaranteed to fail at this one. For as long as you have those limiting beliefs about yourself, no matter the opportunities that come your way, you are not going to do well. You got to deal with them. You've got to deal with them. There is no reason why somebody else should be successful in business and you should not. No reason. But again, it's important that you deal with these things. I don't know if you know Les Brown, but Les Brown is probably one of the greatest motivational speakers of our generation, and definitely one of the most successful. And he was saying that he could have been doing what he's doing now. He could have been doing this 14 years before he started. But he talked himself out of doing it because he had a complex about the fact that he didn't have a college degree up till now. I mean, the man is in his 70s now, and he doesn't have further education. He didn't feel that he could speak that well. He didn't feel like he knew enough, and he was intimidated. He was intimidated. He felt, how is corporate? There's no way corporate America that all went to Yale and everything, and Harvard and everything. How are they going to hire somebody like me who failed twice in secondary school? How are they going to hire somebody like me who was labeled educationally retarded in school? How are they going to hire somebody like me to come and speak to them about business? And so for 14 years, he let himself be talked out of doing what that man was born to do. If Les Brown can't motivate you, well, you're on your own, girl. But this is how these things are real, and they're so important. So sometimes these limiting beliefs and these mindsets they go back right to our childhood. Maybe somebody said something about you or to you that made you feel that you were not enough, and you were not able, and you were not qualified, and you have carried that into your adult life. Sometimes people have project their issues on you, and you buy into it. So I remember I was doing a talk. I was doing a seminar one day, and it was for a group of entrepreneurs. And there was this lady in that group. She was an accountant, and she had a very good, very thriving, very profitable business. And I was talking about self-esteem and self-limiting beliefs. And she said something, I'll never forget her story. She said, Bebe, you're so right. She said, when I was growing up, she said, I grew up in a single parent household, and my mother raised us, and we were all girls. And when I was growing up, my mother used to say to us, life is hard and then you die, because her relationship with my father hadn't worked well, and she was kind of bitter about her lot in life. And so she had her daily mantra. She said there was hardly a day that went by where her mother did not weave that mantra into a conversation. Life is hard and then you die. So she said, I grew up with that at the back of my mind. And so when I went into business, I really wasn't expecting to do well, because I too thought that, well, life is hard and then you die. So I expected life to be hard. I expected to fail. I expected to be disappointed. I expected, to not do as well. And so even when success began to come, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to take advantage of it because of what her mother had projected upon her. So these things seem like they're subtle, but I can assure you, these are the things, more than anything else, that limit our success in business. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining the Bebe Means Business Show. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope I have helped you in some way in developing the mindset of an entrepreneur, because if you don't get the mindset right, it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful. And I want to be successful. I want to hear all your testimonies. I want to hear everything that's happening in your business. So drop me a line sometime. Drop me an email. Let me know what's going down in your business. Let me know if the program has helped you in any way. We want to hear about it so that I can shout about it and let everybody know that the Bebe Means Business Show is part of your success story. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great week. Stay safe and well. And as I always say, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life. Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe